Kuzuzangpo, and welcome to this very special panel discussion brought to you from Royal Thimphu College. And the topic for today's panel discussion is how to get a job. And also with this, we'll also be looking at the development of human capital in Bhutan. So with this, let me introduce my panelists. First of all, ladies first, I have Ms. Kezang Chuki Doji, who is the director of KCT Productions. Ms. Kezang Chuki Doji worked in BBS for almost 10 years or so as a producer, as a news anchor, and she left BBS thinking that pasture on the other side would be greener than BBS. And that's why she's doing so well with her own KCT Productions. I have Professor Douglas Schofield, who is the head of business faculty here in Royal Thimphu College. I have Honorable Secretary of Ministry of Economic Affairs, Joshua Sonam Sering, and I have Mr. Jamyang Gele, who is the Honorable Director of Department of Employment from Ministry of Labor and Human Resources. Without further ado, let me hand this floor over to Ampek. Ampek is the Managing Director of Bhutan Center for Media and Democracy, and she will moderate the whole discussion. So Ampek, it's over to you.
Thank you, Dawa. Thank you very much. And first of all, we're very pleased to be here at RTC. I'd like to very quickly welcome all my fellow panelists. Right? The subject today, as you heard from Dawa, is a very important topic. I think all of you are very interested in something like this. It's about how to get a job and the development of human capital in Bhutan. Now, I think most of us have heard this, on the news, in all the Dzongkha meetings over the years, that people are the most precious assets in a country like Bhutan. And with about 6 out of 10 people in Bhutan under the age of 25, I think we're very fortunate in terms of human resources, the people that we have in our country. But human capital, which is the title, refers to something more than just people, than just the human resources. It sort of alludes to a combination of people with the adequate, with the right skills and knowledge and aptitude, right, to form that workforce that will contribute to a country like ours. So that is human capital. But for our discussion today, we want to focus on just one aspect of human capital, and that's employability. How do we get a job? Where are the jobs, right, that will help us build a strong Bhutan? So for this, I'd like to begin by perhaps going first to the Director of Labor and Human Resources, Jamyang Gele. Jamyang, what is it that makes a person employable today in Bhutan?
What makes a person employable? Is it knowledge, skills, or attitude? That was the question. To me, these three are complementary. This is a set of elements which is necessary for a person to get employable. A degree certificate, which I may equate with knowledge, is like a key to a door. It can help you unlock the door of the world of work. You see, with your degree, you may be eligible to sit for an interview because criteria are set. You need certain levels of education, degree, class 12, and all this. But you see, after unlocking the door, the door do not open automatically. You see, you need other sets of skills, a mixed set, and a good attitude. Skills in the world of work, we said we have 2 sets of skills, soft and hard. But here what is important for you all is to develop your soft skills, communication skills, interview techniques. You see, you have to learn right from now before joining or embarking, you see. First thing you will encounter when you enter into the world of work is the interview panel. So you have to prepare yourself. And attitude is very important because most of the employers look at the attitude of an employee, you see. They can build on your attitude, which will be very productive for the company. And also attitude, once you join the world of work, you should have a very good attitude because attitude is necessary for your career progression. If you have good attitude and aptitude to learn, you will progress and you will achieve your dreams one day, whatever you want to be.
Jamyang talked about unlocking that door, and for many, many years in Bhutan, we've all been knocking at the door of the royal government of Bhutan. So I'd like to turn to Dasha Sonam Tsiringla, who also began his career working for the RGOB, and he continues to be there, having risen through the rungs. Dasha, what are the biggest changes that you've seen in employment trends in recent years?
The employment scenario in the last 30, 40 years has changed quite dramatically. If you look back when development first started in Bhutan, government was the main employer. And in fact, it was the only employer. But today, if you look at the trend, increasingly the government's requirement is less and less. The slogan in the civil service is to have a compact and efficient civil service. So definitely you should not be looking at the civil service as the only employment body. Now, I would like to respond in terms of some of the way things are done from an economic perspective. If you look at our the way the GDP is structured, our primary the employment in the primary sector is contributes to our primary sector. Basically, that's the agriculture sector, the mining sector. They contribute around 13% of the GDP. At one time, this used to be over 60-70% of the GDP. The secondary sector, which basically consists of the manufacturing sector, electricity, and water, that accounts for now at the moment is around 37%. And the tertiary sector accounts for approximately 43%. Now, earlier we could see a balance between the tertiary sector and the secondary sector, but now increasingly what's happening is the tertiary sector is beginning to become more and more dominant when it comes to from an opportunity perspective. So from an employment perspective, this is very much in line with the way government looks at it from when you look at employment opportunities. The tertiary sector is basically the service sector, the finance sector, the cultural sector. These are the areas which are in the transport sector. And this is one area where we believe Bhutan has a competitive edge. In the manufacturing sector, somehow we find that because of our high labor cost, it's very difficult to be competitive unless we find that we have some resource which can be value added substantially within the country. But if it's purely depending on importing raw materials from outside and value adding, then there is a big task. So increasingly, I think now the opportunities are more and more in the service sector. Thank you.
So you've laid out a lot of opportunities there in, say, service sector, cultural sector, etc. But I think right now the dominant thinking is still that civil service provides this stability that the private sector does not give. And we've been hearing for a long time about a mismatch, between the kind of jobs available and the expectations of job seekers. But after so many years, why is there still this mismatch in Bhutan? I'd like to open this up to both Jamyang and Dasha. Why are we still facing this mismatch? Is it because the jobs are all about more blue-collar oriented jobs that graduates perhaps feel that they're too trained or too experienced for, or it's not something that they would like to engage in?
Right. I'm really not too sure whether mismatch is really the issue there. Bhutan is a developing nation. We still have a long way to go in terms of many of the basic issues. So from that perspective, if you look at the real demand is basically in the professional areas. We want doctors, we want lawyers, we want engineers, we want accountants, and so on. These are very much indicative of an economy that is still coming out from basic areas where you need to do a lot in that field. What's happening in the education sector, we find that increasingly more and more students are coming out with liberal art degrees, and that's where you have a challenge finding a job. And I'm really not sure whether it's because college education does not necessarily prepare you fully to be employed. It just exposes you to the wider world, gives you a foundation on which you can develop later as you go along. So I really do not believe that there is a mismatch. The key issue that what I would like to emphasize upon is what Jamyang also said earlier. You have to have the right attitude. That has to be there. And more than anything else, I think you need to be aware that you have to be competitive. If you are not competitive, you will not be able to get a job. And ultimately, I think that is the key issue. You have to ensure that you are productive. And one of the things that I find most of our students lack is that their reading and writing skills are very poor. In the real world, you really have to be competent in your ability to communicate. You have to be able to write well. These are very important. If you have these, I think getting a job, in my opinion, is really not so difficult.
Yes. Jemiang, anything to add to that? The so-called
just
mismatch that's often
Yes, just to add on to what Dasho Sonam said, that the perception of mismatch of job and the job seekers is a myth now, I would say. Like university degree suddenly gives you some sort of, knowledge, but you are not prepared, you see. You have to take your my first job, that policy, you have to adopt, you see. Whatever comes, you take it, you know. Maybe it may not pay you well, but our youths are not taking the jobs that are coming their way. And secondly, observing such scenario, the ministry is trying to come up with some special programs where we can impart trainings for 1-2 months and prepare you for the world of work. That will be a good news for you all.
We've been talking so much about jobs and opportunities and employability, but education and training, which is the most important investment in our people, is a critical issue. And over here, what's the correlation between people who do really well in school and college, like academic success, and work? Does it mean that if I have high grades right through school and college that I would have a successful career? Would you comment on that? And are there other important factors at play?
Thank you. I'd start by saying that, as the two prior speakers have said, an awful lot depends on your attitude, your self-motivation, things that are intrinsic to you. And that's true whether it's in a college or in a job. So certainly, if you've gotten good grades, that does reflect the proper attitude, a lot of hard work, achieving goals that you've set for yourself. And conversely, unfortunately, poor grades reflect the opposite. In the case of a job, though, I think, comparing that to the college situation, in many ways there is a low correlation between how well you do, even with good grades, and how well you do in a job. And the reason is quite simple. In a job setting, you're really in need of types of skills that by and large have not been developed well in the educational setting or not even required. I think several examples are important. In the school setting, especially in Bhutan, I think there still is substantial emphasis on memorization, getting facts rather than analysis, and relatively little on building up the kinds of skills that the other two panelists have talked about. In a job setting, it's the skills and the attitude, as the other have said, that is really absolutely essential in doing well. For example, self-motivation is incredibly important, doubly important if you want to be an entrepreneur and develop your own business. In a school setting, there's a lot of direction. You're given very specific instructions. In most jobs, that is not the case. You have to figure out what the job entails, how to make it work properly. Along with that, in jobs, you have to take a lot of initiative. You're simply not being told what to do most of the time. You have to figure that part out. In jobs, often it's teamwork that is very important. You have to be able to work with a whole variety, a cross-section of people in your company, outside your company, whereas in schools a lot more is obviously studying on your own. I think finally, in many jobs, you have to be very good at communicating, you have to be concise, clear, and you're often in a situation, unlike school, where all of a sudden someone asks you a question you've never thought about. I go to a management meeting and Dasho asks me something I haven't even considered before, but you've got to be prepared to address something new all the time. So I think those are the differences I see.
So you've got to be prepared to address something new all the time, and I suppose this is possibly an experience that Kazang Chuki herself went through. You've been a corporate employee for many years, and you were guaranteed a salary at the end of every month. But you decided one day to venture out on your own, right? Can you tell us a bit about what it's like to be working independently and to be working in the private sector? Because right now we hear that there are a lot of jobs and possibilities in the private sector, but we also know that many young people are a little hesitant. They think that if you join civil service, you have a stable career. Could you talk a bit about this transition and what's out there?
Thank you for the opportunity to also share my views today. Personally, I think that there are many advantages and benefits to being your own employer, but I didn't always think that way. And I didn't leave BBS thinking that I was leaving for greener pastures. But, you know, when I was younger and when I was growing up, I watched my father, who devoted his entire career to the civil service. So when I joined BBS in 1999, I expected that I would also do the same. But, you know, things happen in life and everything changes, and then you just have to make the best of the situation. So in my case, it was actually a personal reason. When I had my second child, I realized that I had to make a tough decision. And so that's why I decided to actually join the private sector, and because I knew I wanted to continue working, but at the same time I wanted to have a flexible work schedule so that I could also be there for my family as well. But the years I had in BBS, of course, was invaluable, and it gave me the confidence when I did join the private sector, because I had already acquired a set of skills. The experience, the exposure, you know, the things that I learned there, I think really did help make that transition easier. And I was able to, you know, then successfully launch my company.
Okay, now that you're, you know, in a position to employ others, what advice would you have for our group of young graduates today? What advice would you give them for people who want to venture out and do something on our own, or even, you know, people considering, you know, applying for their first job?
Well, I think that if you want to join the private sector, you definitely should. I think that there, as Tasho and Sir's already mentioned, that there are many opportunities in the private sector today, and I think that, of course, you have to be well prepared, and you have to be realistic. And if you're interested to start your own business, I would begin by, you know, starting small, but of course dreaming big, so that especially if you have limited resources, then you know that, you know, you don't want to overborrow. So you go in there, and then once the business picks up, then you're able to reinvest your profits. I think one thing that it may seem obvious, but I think that's important to know, is in the private sector, you have to be prepared to slog. I think that that is one of the most rewarding things about being in the private sector. You work like a donkey, and you enjoy the fruits later. And I think another important lesson that I learned also being in the private sector is that you shouldn't be afraid of failure. It does happen, and I think you have to take it as an opportunity to, you know, to take it as a lesson, and then you pick yourself up, and then you try again, and chances are you will succeed the second time round. So I think that is also a very valuable lesson. But most importantly, and this is something you can already start, if you know that you want to join, you want to start a business, I think that you should create that environment around you. You have to start talking to people who have the same interests. You have to ensure that you should find yourself a mentor, somebody who can give you some guidance. And I would say that experience, without a doubt, would be very, very useful. So I would consider that, I think, a very important lesson. That if you do want to start a business, try to get some experience beforehand, and that will go a long way in helping make your business successful.
So this idea of trying to get some experience, I think recently we were attending a forum, and we heard several young people get up to say, when we go out to get a job, the ads say experience preferred. So many young people find themselves in a bit of a fix when you're starting out for the first time. So Jem Young, maybe you could tell us, how important is it for people starting out to actually first have a practical experience, and how can new graduates get this experience?
Having practical experience is an added advantage, but I won't say it's a prerequisite to get or be employable, to become employable. like many graduates, the moment they see on the advertisement that, okay, experience will be given preferences, they just don't even go and submit their applications, you see. They are withdrawing from the first step itself. Why don't you keep on applying? Maybe there are none with the experience, so you may get that job. So that you have to keep in your mind. And now what government is doing to equip you all with this need demanded not by the corporations or the government, but by the private sector. I don't know why they are insisting on requirement of past experience. Now what we are doing is we have a university graduate internship program where we support you all for 3 to 6 months, so that during that period you will get some experience running office and keeping books of accounts and in different areas. Like we are trying to engage both with corporations, government agencies, and even private sectors. So this is one approach we are following to equip you all with some basic experience.
Anyone, would you employ someone who comes with a very pristine sort of record of academic success, but also has, you know, a rounded experience? Does that give them a better chance of being employed?
That definitely helps, you see, but you should, while trying to get or trying to engage yourself in certain activities to gain, say, experience, you have to focus yourself towards getting employment or try to get employability skills, you see. That should be your objective. But when you do certain voluntary things, I think it will have an added advantage later.
So over here.
I'd like to add to that, if I could, that I think there are many things during college you can do to get your experience. For example, we had a group of RTC students who served as interns at Bhutan today. They got very good experience and actually came back and started an RTC newsletter. And that's the sort of thing that an employer is going to look at, where you not only had, in this case, a non-paying job, as you were suggesting, but you obviously extended it to then demonstrate that you had learned a great deal. Similarly, in projects that we're having, I'll say for the fourth-year BBA students, we're trying to design them as much as possible where, in effect, they're working for a company to carry out something that's of value to the company. And that very much is the sort of thing employers are going to look for after you graduate.
When prospective employers look at you, they want to see whether or not you're driven and if you're motivated, self-motivated. And I think that if you are already that person, then it shows that you will take part in a lot of activities in your school, in your college. As you mentioned, there are programs that are offered, you know, where you have these internships or you have these opportunities. But if you don't have that specific work experience that they may be looking for, the next best thing is, of course, to also, if you are members of clubs or you've volunteered in various social works, you know, you can get reference letters, character reference letters that speak up for you and say that, you know, I vouch for this person and I'd be happy to tell you why if you give me a call. And also, of course, when you go to that job interview, I think that when you go to them, then of course you'll have to work doubly hard to impress your prospective employer, and that I think all of you would be able to do, because whenever you go to a job interview, you know already that you should know anyways, but you'd be surprised though sometimes people come not knowing what the company does, or you know who the employees are or what the vision is. So in that case, you know, if you do your homework very well in advance and you have questions for them as well, you're prepared, and with your, you know, reference letters or work experience letters, then I think it already, you know, puts you ahead of the pack, and you would have a better chance of being hired.
Okay, so we come back to this whole training and the education that we've had for many years. Douglas, can you tell us how well are our colleges and educational institutes in Bhutan preparing our young people for work? What are we doing? How can we improve this?
Okay. I'd say that obviously I can speak mainly for RTC, but I've also visited Cherupsi and Gedu, so I think I can generalize from that. And also I'd say that colleges obviously something that comes after 12 years of schooling that has a different characteristic to it, so we cannot ignore in any way that aspect. I think clearly the school system, the primary, secondary, so forth, within Bhutan has made enormous strides, but frankly, I think there's still a long way to go, particularly in the aspect of developing the kinds of skills that we've all been talking about here, and in encouraging the students, as you were saying, to really demonstrate that drive. Those are the areas where I think there's still quite a bit of work to be done. This is not just a matter of the schools, though. It's a responsibility of the students. I think it's sad, but it's true that many of the students are still in the mode of cramming right before the exam, pass the exam without excelling at it, and then by the time they get to RTC, they've forgotten what they had 3 months ago. That's a responsibility the students have to clearly take on. At the same time, I can say that RTC is trying to develop a number of ways to particularly improve the skill aspect. All of our incoming students take a full semester course called Orientation to College Learning. It's very much developing the communication skills, as the other panel members were saying, are absolutely critical. And developing what I think several of us have referred to as the attitude, much more drive in yourself to take charge of your life. Specific to getting a job, the other topic of the panel today is an example. We're trying to do a variety of activities for the students so that they really understand the practicalities of getting a job. How do you prepare a CV? How do you prepare for an interview? That kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So all those are elements that I think certainly RTC and I assume the other colleges are also doing to really focus on the skill development.
Is schooling or college degree meant to just get us to the end of that tunnel to get a job? Or is it meant to create something a little more, you know, to develop the full potential of people, the human capital, we call it? You know, how do you see that being done in Bhutan with the kind of training and education that we're offering?
I see fundamentally three very different but complementary aspects of education, especially in Bhutan. One of the most important things in Bhutan is the fact there's a new democracy. And a democracy really requires citizens who are voters to have some fairly broad understanding of quite a variety of issues. It's not just one subject area, but voters really have to think about quite a varied group of issues. You also have to develop a skill of assessing your elected officials. Are they doing the job? That's a job that you as voters have to think about and make a conscious choice every time there's an election. I think finally, in this democratic context, is really a need for each of you to develop a vision of what future you want for yourself, what sort of life you want to lead, and for the country. What do you want the country to look like for you and for your children? Second major area, I think, on your question of education is for you as an individual. I think in a lot of ways education has been seen much too narrowly as focusing on preparation for a job. You're preparing for a life. You need to enrich that life, get beyond just the narrow topics that you cover, think about broader issues, things that will guide you in your life, will guide your children when you come to that point. And for that, I think really each of you needs to not only have more breadth in the education than is true now, to introduce you to a wider array of issues, but also on the skill side to be a perpetual learner. Things are always changing. You need that skill to adapt, to learn new things, to teach yourself new things. Many times there won't be people there to help you learn. You'll have to do this yourself. I I think a final issue, obviously, is preparation for a job. There's no doubt that is a significant part of education, but I would say it is not so much the individual subject matter that you're looking at. It's not the facts, it's the skills. Because the one thing that every one of us is talking about is change. Everything keeps changing continuously, and it's the skills that are going to get you through that, that'll let you learn new things. Give you some sense of how old I am. When I was born, there were no televisions, no computers, no smartphones, no internet. None of that existed when I was born. These are all things that require new skills. And by and large, things you're going to have to teach yourself.
But Bhutan, until very recently, had no television, no smartphones, no cell phones, no internet. I was wondering if, Dasha, would you like to comment on this about being a perpetual learner, and how do we, enlarge our skill set?
Right. In my opinion, the issue is really not the inability to find a job. The issue is being able to do much more than what one individual could do. In the Bhutanese, in our context, one of the big challenges we have is our human resources. We see that as a major challenge, and so I don't think all our students here really need to worry too much that you may not be able to find a job. In fact, my advice to you would be more along the lines of you have to do much more than what a single individual does across the border. We would expect our people to be more and more productive. Things like multitasking, all those things are very important things that we have to be able to do. At the end of the day, one of the things I referred to you earlier in the morning, earlier in the day when I said in the manufacturing sector, we have, is a big challenge for us because our labor costs are high. Now, how can you reduce the labor cost? If one person does the work of 3 other people, definitely you can reduce the labor cost in that manner. So this is something that I strongly urge all of you to keep in mind, that you have to be able to, you must be willing to take up whatever comes your way, and then you must be dedicated to the job that comes along your way. And I don't think Bhutan has the luxury of producing a whole lot of educated people. Then you sit at home and start daydreaming. I don't think we can afford that luxury. So at the end of the day, it is important that you educate yourself well, and it is important that you do something productive as a citizen of the nation. And there are so many things that come your way. I find in our working environment now, in the civil service, we find many of our young people who join the civil service and they leave after a while. And one of the things when I asked him, why do you leave? He said, we don't have, there is hardly any work in the civil service. I don't have much job, so I think I'm better off working in the private sector. But I told him that you are no longer a student. Once you have graduated, you are an adult. You have full responsibilities, and you are expected to take initiatives. You cannot wait for your boss to tell you what you should be doing and what you should not be doing. I think these are important things that you need to take in mind. But just one important thing that I want to tell you is that many people tend to aspire for civil service jobs because of stability, because they feel that that's where at least jobs are secure. I don't think that should be your ultimate reason to find a job. The reason to find a job should be very clear. You must be, as Kazang mentioned, you have to be motivated. You must like that particular job. And if you are someone that feels that you can do a lot, that you want to, your value is much more than what you are paid in the civil service, then perhaps you are in the wrong area. If you decide to be a civil servant, you have to bear in mind that we serve society. So you should not be talking about your pay and, people in the private sector get much more, because if that is the attitude, you should join the private sector. Your mindset in joining civil service has to be a little different. You have to realize that you have to serve the community, serve the government, serve the people. So that should be the attitude if you decide to choose a civil service. If you decide to join the private sector, then at that time you could be an employer, you could be an employee, but there, the world is a little different. If you are not productive, you might even lose your job there also.
So what I'm hearing now is that the world is different.
Yeah.
We are now a new democracy. There are a lot of opportunities. There are a lot of jobs out there. Can we just quickly look at this whole concept of the world of work itself? Until not so long ago, we were content to get a job, sit there, and wait for a boss to tell us what to do. But from what I'm hearing from all our panelists today is that initiative is required. We need to be much more creative. We need to have a willingness. And today we also have a lot of, let's say, IT, right, which permits me or anyone of us to actually even work from home if we had an internet connection. How has the world of work actually changed in Bhutan, and what are the opportunities there for working independently, maybe in the creative industries, for example?
In today's world, I guess everyone needs to be aware of IT, and you have to be able to use IT as a tool to maximize your productivity. And from that perspective, I think a lot of the traditional type of jobs are almost becoming redundant. You know, having like secretaries or someone to type your letters, and those are jobs that no longer exist because of IT, and IT also provides so much information. So you can look at IT as a profession in the sense that you could be a software engineer or you could be a hardware engineer. That's a different aspect. But otherwise, every one that comes into the job market, I think, is expected to be aware of IT and to be able to use it in the best manner so that he's able to become more and more efficient in his work. I think that is a very important thing. But things like, of course, doing your work from home and so on, in the government, I think it is that sort of thing has not come in. What has come in recently is, I think we are aware that on Tuesdays we have a pedestrian day. So on Tuesdays, those, you know, the ladies who have just had a child, they're allowed to work from home through using your IT and so on, but we'll have to see how it works. But I mean, that's as far as where we have got as far as the government is concerned. Yeah.
Yes. What about in terms of entrepreneurship? I think we've heard more and more the need for Bhutanese to be more entrepreneurial. And I think there are also a lot of opportunities and support out there. I'm just wondering, what is there? What kind of training is available? What kind of loan schemes? What is there that we should be aware of?
The Ministry of Labour, we have a program called Entrepreneurship Promotion Program. And like we conduct two sorts of training. One is called Basic Entrepreneurship Course, and another is called Comprehensive Entrepreneurship Course. Basic is meant for class 12 and below with some skills, vocational or technical skills. But comprehensive entrepreneurship course is meant for university graduates, you see. If you have a good business plan, we train you for 40 days. And at the end of the training, you have to produce a business plan. So what the ministry does is that, okay, we forward these business plans to the financial institutes, and we have signed an agreement with 6 financial institutes. If the business plans of our trainees are viable, then they will support the business and give financing. And this whole program is within the umbrella of a scheme. We have a credit guarantee scheme. So the credit guarantee scheme, within that we have an agreement signed with the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Labour and the financial institutes that if the business of a particular client goes bad, then the government will bear the loss of 60% and the financial institutes will bear, say, 40%. And but that failure of the business should be genuine, not because of carelessness or manipulation or other things. Otherwise, you may be taken to court. But it's a risk-free scheme. So you people are allowed to avail, and the maximum financial support the financial institutes give is around 10 lakhs, which is 1 million. So you can avail, and you don't need any equity, and the interest rates are minimal, which is, I think, less than 10%. So these are some of the programs we have.
There are 2 other activities that differ considerably from what you described, and I think come a lot closer to what you were saying about starting a business. One of them is DHI is running what's called the Begin program, which is first of all aimed very much at experienced people who already have some job experience. They're much better prepared to actually start a business of their own. It also is different in that it does require the entrepreneur to take some risk of his own. It's not risk-free, and that's the nature of most private businesses. At the same time, that program includes what's called equity capital. It's permanent capital that DHI will invest in a new business. It's not a loan that has to be paid back, but it does give a foundation for much better growth in a company. Beyond that, there's the incubation center now at the tech park. Different orientation there. They're basically giving advice, logistical support, things of that sort to existing businesses. So it's a later stage type of arrangement. So we really have the whole spectrum from what the ministry is doing for very entry-level entrepreneurs to the DHI, where people are looking for growth potential, to existing companies at the incubation center.
Thank you very much. We've come to the end of this section of today's program. I hand over to Dawa for the Q&A. I'm sure you all have a lot of questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Amber. And huge round of applause for this wonderful discussion. Thank you. Let me ask you a question. There is nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Who said this? Shakespeare. Why did he say this? Where did he say this? How did he say this? Do you have any ideas? Any ideas? Because we never think critically. Okay, for us, what is important is, there's nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so. This is said by Shakespeare, and it's going to come in my exam, so I write it. Finish. But why he said this? There's a reason to say this. Where he said this? How he said this? There's an answer to all these questions, and it's important that we need to think critically. Okay, first question, please.
Good evening. Thank you so much. I'm Sringdema, BA English EVS third year, and I'm a teacher by profession. I'm asking this question because I'm sure most of my friends out here will have the same opinion. We are reminded, and we have been noticing that the first priority when we look for a job is the experience, as you all already reminded us. So no matter whether the candidate has creativity, academic knowledge, or personal motivation, when it comes to the actual day of looking for the job, as we said, the preference is given to the candidates having experience despite of having the other requirements fulfilled. So my question here is, can you suggest in what ways or where these candidates who are not selected or who are left out can proceed to in order to get that required experience or to get themselves prepared for the required priority? Because if I'm not wrong, that is the time when the unemployment issues comes up, and ultimately the candidate is left with frustration and hopes all expired. Thank you.
Okay. I think clapping after every question would be a waste of time. So we'll do away with it. Okay. This question is coming from a teacher who is already employed and who has some experience, and she is basically speaking on behalf of our friends. Maybe let me put this to Mr. Jamyangele. Experience is always given preference. You mentioned that it's not a prerequisite to any employment. But again, wherever one applies for, if experience is given preference, then where do the others who are not experienced go?
Sorry. Like as I said earlier, that experience is a plus point, but it's not a prerequisite. So firstly, you brought up the issue of blue-collar jobs. Now say, at the Ministry of Labor, we don't consider blue and white. We consider only knowledge workers. That, I think, all of us has to be aware. We don't differentiate who is blue or what. A decent job and knowledge workers. Now, since such cases have come up numerous times, so what the ministry has done is we have opened a different website for all the university graduates who didn't get selected in RCC or not absorbed in private sector to register separately with their interest, with their qualification, with all the, say, choice or preference of location, all these things. And we also ask the private sectors to submit their requisition. And at the moment, we are doing a comprehensive job mapping, you see, between the job seekers and from the demand side, okay, the employers. And now, when you are left in the, say, with no support from anywhere, you are always requested to approach the Ministry of Labor we have 2 programs for undergraduates. You can avail our pre-employment engagement program, where we support with stipend and engage you with different organizations. For university graduates, you have university graduate internship program, which we support you for 3 to 6 months, and within that time, we try to refer you and find vacancies and try to place you by issuing letter of recommendation, making requests, and all these things. So these are some of the facilities, but to avail these facilities, first of all, you will have to register with the Ministry of Labor on its website online. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, to introduce myself, my name is Dzongkha, the second year, third semester, undergoing Bachelor's of Commerce. To proceed on my question, how can we create the dignity of labor to fill the undesirable jobs? At this juncture, at the current moment, the current situation, the job seekers prefer white-collar jobs rather than preferring blue-collar jobs, despite the fact that they lack the human capital, which comprises of the intellectual capabilities, the good skills, and good experiences, in fact. So we are very much aware that Bhutan is a landlocked country, but at the same instant, we don't expect Bhutan citizens' mind to be locked as well. So my question is, how can the government and the private sectors and the entire society can promote the dignity of labor to fill the undesirable jobs? Thank you very much indeed.
Okay, thank you. No need to applaud. No need to applaud. Next question, please. Introduce yourself first.
Hello there. I'm Chakramani. I'm from BCA third year. And my question would be, I believe that future of employment depends on our current education, though as stated by honorable panelists, it doesn't necessarily guarantee employability, but it certainly opens up the door. So on this note, is there anything that we can do in our education system currently so that we could meet the future needs of employment?
Nice. Thank you. Maybe the first question, let me put the first question to Dasho. Dasho, the dignity of labor, is it an issue now? Are we still struggling to fight with this issue of dignity of labor?
Well, I think this is, in my opinion, a very important thing that we all need to be concerned about, because the Bhutanese society, in our Bhutanese society, we are all equal. If you look at the traditional society, there is the king and the rest of us. So there is, we really do not have a very hierarchical system. But what I find most challenging now is that dignity of labor among especially the job seekers now, it appears to be more and more of an issue. Most people do not want to take up blue-collar jobs, and that then brings to the fact that perhaps there is no scarcity of jobs. Because there is no scarcity of jobs, people tend to, become very choosy. But dignity of labor is definitely a very important aspect that we need to keep in mind. And one of the things that I would like to advise all of you is that after you graduate, once you have a degree, whether in whatever degree you may have, it is important for you to use your time to build up your skills. If you are a BCom student, why don't you register yourself in an accountancy course and take up that? If you are an economics student, try to do some part-time jobs somewhere, take up temporary jobs and so on. That will create employment opportunities. But dignity of job, in my opinion, is more of an inherent issue within individuals. I'm not sure whether government can really do anything to create that differentiation. Just to tell you, I mean, maybe I can share a small anecdote with you. This was, it was around 15 years ago. I was in the UK, and in the morning, I was looking at the newspaper, and there was one article that caught my eyes. And this was, that particular article, I still remember it because it created quite a big impact in me. And this was a professor in Oxford University, and he had a plumbing problem in his house. So he called up the local plumber to fix up the plumbing. And as soon as the plumber arrived, The plumber was quite in awe of the professor because, I mean, he's a professor in Oxford, and his view immediately was that this professor must be highly paid. So the first question he asked the professor was, sir, how much money do you make in what is your salary? So the professor said, my annual salary is 36,000 pounds a year. That is what he said, 36,000 pounds a year. Immediately the plumber was shocked. He said, sir, is that what you make? He said, I make over 10,000 pounds a month. And the reason why I say this is that he has got a skilled job where he is a self-employed type of job where he is paid by the hour. Now this is where many of our people would not even consider this type of job because you feel it's below your dignity to look at this. But most of if you want a well-paid job, it's all in the skill area. And in skill areas, once you take up, there is really no issue as far as dignity is concerned.
Yes, sir. Second question, maybe let me bring Ampik to the panel as well. Second question is, what kind of structured curriculum or any specific programs that can be designed for students to study in their schools and education that would help them become more employable?
I'm speaking more as a parent. I'm not an educator, but I feel that we need to think out of, as all my panelists have said, education needs to go beyond the usual college education. I already see initiatives to, for example, improve vocational training. We should have a farm school for those who are interested in, making sure that the farmsteads that we've inherited continue to run. Arts and crafts, media. There are a lot of possibilities, but we tend to go to regular school and we tend to go through this degree thinking we must come out with a general degree, and that is the most important. Dasho himself mentioned that right now the demands are for very specialized jobs, whether it's engineering, right, or being a medical doctor, etc. But on the other hand, certainly a country like Bhutan, we need better farm schools. We need to learn how to manage organic farming, floriculture. There's so many possibilities there. And then in terms of education, why do we go to school? I guess, it's not. The idea is to learn how to live with the community, live with other people, to take our time growing up, and that's a luxury that we've given ourselves. But more than that, I think the need to learn how to be a good person, how we can actually contribute, not necessarily through a monthly pay or salary, but so that we understand our position, where we stand, where we are within our own small community, and the country at large. So I think education is important, but sometimes it's us, parents. We expect our children to do really well in school because at the end of the day, you have to go and get a job. But maybe if we learned also that there are other reasons why children need to go to school and don't put that pressure on, then maybe our children also can learn how to find their own strengths, and to find their place. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I wonder if I could add to that.
Briefly.
I think we've been talking education very narrowly of going to classes. But I think it's very important to think of education as any situation where you can learn. And this relates very directly, I think, to the dignity of labor question. In my own case, my first job doesn't sound very dignified. I was sampling sewer water from a factory at night. But I learned an enormous amount about it. I felt I was serving by making sure that bad chemicals didn't get into the water supply. I learned how companies functioned. It was a wonderful education for me, and it set the foundation for basically taking on other kinds of work after that. So I think we have to redefine what education really is. To me, it's any experience where you learn, where you build your capability, not necessarily in a classroom at all.
Thank you. Thank you. I think you need to listen to what Professor Douglas just mentioned. And if you just miss what he said just now, you should talk to him and see what was his experience like. And it's all to do about dignity of labor.
My name is Sonam Tashi, and I'm in second year, English and Dzongkha. To share my view for a vision for Bhutan, I would go with Dashola, Honorable Secretary, that I would like to see a well-educated and well-educated society, a well-educated Bhutan. And with regard to that, I would like to raise the question that our government, be it the government or anyone at the higher level, I think they are perceiving unemployment as a problem. And if you look at the bigger vision for Bhutan, to create an educated society, I don't think unemployment should be seen as a problem. And to that, people are being discouraged to join the civil service, and when they cannot create a job of their own and join into private sectors, they're left unemployed. But I don't see that as a problem, because they have been educated and they are a part of Bhutan and a citizen as a whole. And to create an educated society at large, I don't think that unemployment should be seen as a problem. And to that solution, for example, RTC has a vision. The vision doesn't say we want to create students and prepare them for the job market. It says we want to create independent, lifelong learners and well-rounded citizens. And I would like to hear views on that. Thank you.
Will you all be happy with RTC's vision? Not getting employed? Employment may not necessarily be a problem, according to what the gentleman just said. Okay, next question. Then I'll come to Director Labor and Ms. Kasinchuki.
Thank you, La. This is Kunzung Lima from PCA second year. La. Here my question is, why and how mismatch of skills and job arises? Can we put blame on education policy, educator, or the individual job seeker? Is it the sole responsible for the job seeker? I don't think so. As we know that we cannot manifest that is not being taught during the learning how to learn. So that's my question.
First one, is unemployment a problem? According to the gentleman who just asked this question, he does not see this as a problem. Now, for many of us, as long as you're employed, you don't see unemployment as a problem. You don't see your neighbor not getting employed as a problem. You only see yourselves not getting employed as a problem. That's one. Another question is, he just said, why is all this mismatch? Where things are going wrong? Where is it getting stuck?
Like he mentioned that, okay, by the end of, within, medium to long term, Bhutan will have an educated society. But now let's come and look at some of the real statistics. Every year in Bhutanese labor market, there are 20,000 plus youths entering into labor market. And to give employment to these 20,000 and to maintain unemployment rate at 2.5, each year there will be 8,000 people unemployed in the labor market. So the concern of the government regarding this is, when they are unemployed, it is associated with social evils. So that is the real concern. So, okay, look at some hard statistics. 20,000 people need to be absorbed in the economy, and they are not directly employable. Government has to give them trainings, skills, and we have to facilitate employment services for them, advocacy, awareness. So that is the area of concern, not the number itself, but the other evils associated with unemployment. So government is really concerned. Secondly, mismatch of jobs. Now I don't have real hard facts, but looking at the scenario, in the past this seemed to be negligible, but recently it has turned out to be a problem. I see this through a different angle. Bhutan is going just now through a transitional stage. Initially, we were an agrarian society, then we shifted to secondary sort of thing where construction, now tertiary areas. So with the passing of the time, I think we have to align our human resource development looking at the market demands. So, okay, these are some of the issues, but I cannot blame anyone, whether the system or the job seekers or the management or the...
But you do agree that there's a mismatch?
Yeah, there is some, not much. So we have to align that.
Good evening. My name is Milan Subha, and I'm pursuing Bachelor's of Business Administration, 4th year. Well, as Professor Douglas mentioned that for the development of any country, private sector plays a very important role. And Dasho Sonam also said that the graduates should not look into going for civil service only because they want to have a secure job. But I feel that many graduates who pursue or who wants to go for civil service is because they have job security. So my question is, how can the private sector provide job security, and is there any labor legislation for this? Thank you.
Job security. Next question. Panelists, honorable panelists, please take note of the questions. Briefly.
Good evening and good Dzongkha. I'm Sanyawang Di English EVS 2nd year. I won't repeat the question as the question I have been thinking had been already asked by one of my colleagues, but I have some suggestion in terms of experience. If I'm not mistaken, I remember me hearing our His Majesty the 5th King speaking to the public in one of the National Assembly session, that the experience and skills are something yet to be acquired once we are in that field. So what I feel is that I was grateful that the dog show, the director actually said that we would still go on applying, even the criteria says that the preference should be given to the experienced one. But the sad thing is that it was said that we would be lucky there only if we were the only lucky one applying with no one who is experienced. So what I would suggest is that I think that, as His Majesty have said, experience is something yet to be gained, and I strongly feel that
you
that
will stick
experience.
to it, right?
Yes, la.
You will stick to what His Majesty has come.
Yes, la. So okay. I feel that experience can be gained.
Suggestion?
Yes, la.
Thank you so much for your suggestion. I think we'll leave it there. Ms. Gezang Chikiduji, Ms. Gezang Chikiduji, the first question: job security in private sector, is it still a cause of serious concern? Job security.
Of course, absolutely. I can understand, yes, that some people would be afraid to join the private sector because there are no guarantees. I mean, of course, it's easy to feel that once you join the civil service that you have a job for life, but I don't think that is necessarily true anymore. I mean, I think you have to perform. And in the private sector, of course, when you join companies, the main aim is to be financially sustainable. So you're going to have to work extremely hard. But I think that on the positive side, I think that there's a great deal of opportunity. So long as you have ideas, you're willing to work hard, and you're willing to invest all your time, your energy, and I think that you have a very great chance of succeeding. I think that as I mentioned earlier, I think the way forward is really through entrepreneurship. And there's nothing more satisfying, nothing more gratifying to be able to do this through the private sector. And if we want to tackle this issue of, how to create jobs, it has to be done, I think it has to be done there.
A very good evening. My name is Shringdema, majoring in political science, 3rd year, and I'm not sure how feasible my suggestion would be towards development in human capital and how to get a job in the later future. And that would be like the introduction of high school internships, whereby the youth, they can do internship during their long-term vacations, and then by involving themselves into job by doing internships, and then they can discover their strengths and weaknesses in the job that they do. And then Mr. Jamyang, he has already mentioned about the university graduate internships, which will enable the youth to enter the labor market and discover their strengths and weaknesses. So I would suggest you all about the high school internships, and then also to hear words from you all on this idea. Thank you very much.
She's talking about not high school dropouts internship program, but rather while on vacation, if they could avail some kind of internship programs while on vacation. This is one question. Next question, please. And I'm afraid we are running short of time. I know you have lots of things to say. So what we will do is we'll pick one question from this block, one from the middle row, and one from there. For now, the first question. Okay, I could only entertain 3 questions.
We would like to know what's being done by the government and the private sectors in order to promote equal opportunities for women in the workplace. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Jamyangile, first question. Internship program for high school students on vacation.
As of now, we don't encourage such things, but we have submitted a proposal to the government to come up with such a program, you know. But however, I would like to point to one thing. Like internship in other countries are done by paying that company, by the intern himself, to avail the space, knowledge, and experts. If the high school and the students are interested to acquire extra skills, I think now it is high time our parents and general public start reinvesting or making investment in such areas, you see. That is assuring or guaranteeing your child or children employability skills. So I would like to propose this.
Thank you. Second question. Maybe Dasho, if you could try answering the second question.
What was the question?
Do we, actually she was mentioning about opportunities for females, right? That is the question. But in our society, the way things are progressing, do we need to keep reservations for females, or do we need to look at quotas for females to get employed?
Right. I think this, whether we need to be gender sensitive in terms of employment, in terms of working environment and so on, this has been an issue that is being constantly discussed. And even in the 11th five-year plan, government is looking at whether we should incorporate gender sensitivity as one of the issues that we need to take into account. But by and large, I think the general view seems to be that, well, I'm sure the lady who asked the question would agree with me that we do not have any gender discrimination in Bhutan. So to that extent, the need to create jobs on a quota basis for female, I think that has really not come up at this moment. In fact, what we've seen now is that at the moment you find that there are very little women in the high echelon of the government, and that's not because of design, but by the fact that in the traditional society, the boys were sent to school and girls were kept home. But now this dynamics is changing, and so I don't think that's really an issue, and I don't think we've really looked at that as an area to be concerned about at this moment.
Thank you. Thank you. Next question, please. Briefly.
I'm Jigmewandi, a student of BA English EVS third year. Today, the job market seems to be asking for more versatile workforce, able to do everything. So is it a good idea to have quantity rather than quality of workforce for Bhutan in the future? If so, how?
I'm Karmezer, I'm taking EcoEVS, and I'm in second year. And my question will be to Director Jamyang. And as we all know that we do have blue-collar jobs, so many blue-collar jobs. But problem is that our youth, they are not interested to take blue-collar job. So does Ministry of Labor and Human Resources take initiative, motivation, and incentive to encourage our youth to take up such job so that our unemployment rate will be reduced? That's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe let me put this to Ms. Kazangchuki. The first question, should we not look at quantitative employment rather than qualitative employment? Because we have so many graduates roaming the market every year, and job opportunities, as we say, we keep saying that we have plenty of job opportunities, yet when you knock somebody's door, there's nothing for you there. So plenty of graduates every year. Rather than looking for qualitative employment, why not look for quantitative employment? What do you think?
I think that's a very interesting question. I think that we should all aspire to be, to be the best we can. And I think that I don't see why we can't be. I don't see, once you have that education, you've opened the, you have that knowledge, I think you are already in a position, you already have the advantage to get whatever additional information, skills, etc., that you need to be the best. So when you go to that job interview, you should be able to impress upon them. And if you don't get it, then you have to ask yourself why. And if of course, it's something that maybe perhaps you could have done better, then I think you have to take those lessons. And I think we should all aspire to be a quality workforce. And I don't see why we shouldn't achieve that, because I think Bhutanese are, by and large, very talented, very creative. When we see students go outside the country, they always perform incredibly well. So I think that you should take pride in that fact, and I think that you should have a very positive outlook in this area. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I think the second question is already answered enough.
Yes.
We have had so much of discussion about the color dichotomy, blue collar and white collar. So we'll leave it there. First question from the faculty members. I thought all faculty members are employed, so you're not going to raise any questions, but we have one here.
So I'm asking this question on behalf of the students.
Okay.
My name is Shivajit Sanyal, and I am a lecturer of marketing management here. But I am also from industry, and I have had a very successful stint as a marketer in India and England. So my question to the honorable panelists would be, all of you will agree with me that government is taking initiative to promote entrepreneurship in Bhutan, right? But what I find is there is a mismatch between what is said and what's done. I'm very sure the mineral water that the honorable panelists are drinking, what is the rationale behind government manufacturing mineral water, and you still expect to create an environment wherein entrepreneurship will thrive? So don't you think you are actually blocking all those avenues wherein you can actually involve parties from the private sector? So that's my question to the honorable panelist, that what is the government should assume a strategic position. Otherwise there will be something called a conflict of interest. If you have your own stakes, then it will give rise to conflict of interest. So are you actually giving a level playing field to the operators? Thank you.
Good evening to all of you. My name is Sonam Sumo. I major in BA Dzongkha English. I'm a third-year student. It's been often said, and I've also heard, that what we study in our college or in school is used only 10% when we are actually working. So now my actual question is, how can we increase communication between education and employers? Thank you.
Dr. Sonam, the first question.
Right. I think what our professor has just mentioned, in my opinion, I don't agree with that. If you look at the way the government first started, a lot of the business aspects were developed by the government in 1970s, 80s. By 1980s, government went into a divestment program, and today government no longer starts companies. So the fact that when you refer to the agro industry was started as a pilot project by the government, basically to create some opportunities to the farming sector. But otherwise, now increasingly the government's role is to provide the right facilitative environment, provide the right policy and right legal framework. And we would expect the private sector to take the lead role. And that is why we have come out with economic development policies, foreign direct investment policy, and so on, unless it is a strategic sector. I mean, at the moment, hydro is considered as a strategic sector, and there we have not really opened up to private sector, but otherwise, everything is open to the private sector.
Thank you. Professor Douglas, the second question, communication.
I think I'd make a very important distinction in answering your question. My own wife said that on her job, she uses about 5% of the facts that she learned back in graduate school and college. In contrast, both she and I would say we probably use 100% of the skill development that we learned in college and graduate school. Facts change. Yeah, they always change. What facts you need for a situation to change. But the constant is if you have the skills to analyze those facts, to solve problems, if you can learn that in college, that'll carry you through your whole life 100%.
My name is Tesh Tenduk. I'm from BA English Dzongkha in final year. My question is about question at large. why only government and NGOs only support to the class 12 and graduate to start their business. Rather, class 12, class 10 dropouts and the farmers are left behind. Rather, they have to seek loan from the BDBL at a highest rate. So, whereby I think government or the NGOs are trying to ignore our citizens. So, is there any support from the Minister of Labor or the NGOs?
Pronunciation is no man's monopoly, so we can pronounce the way we want. Mr. Jamnyangele, final answer to it. The question, did you hear the question properly? No. What he meant was, instead of supporting graduates and class 12 dropouts for all the opportunities or entrepreneurships, why not class 10 dropouts? And they also need to avail opportunities, is the question I raised.
Lasla, thank you for your question. I forgot to mention this. For class 10 and below, we have a different set of program. It's called apprenticeship training program. You know, class 6, 7, 8, 9, if they want to acquire any sort of skills, you know, we attach with the private companies. They are supported in terms of stipend, uniform. So you can inform your friends that there are such facilities with the Ministry of Labor and Human Resources.
I'd like to thank all of you for your wonderful support for this discussion. Maybe let's see a show of hands. How many of you are really worried about not getting employed after your education, after you graduate from RTC? Raise your hands. Almost everybody. Almost everyone, except for those who are already employed, right? So for that, what you need to do? What you need to do? Do you think beyond the box? What the honorable panelists have already mentioned. Do you think beyond the box? Meaning, rather than going to the classroom and studying whatever there is in your curriculum, apart from that, do you think and do you critically analyze what is happening within and around you? So, all I can tell you is, read newspapers, watch television, listen to radio, see what is happening, because these are the areas, these are the platforms where you will learn about government policies. Okay, you need to know a lot apart from what you learn within the RTC campus. Okay, so with this, we'd like to end our program. I'd like to thank Honorable Dasho Sonam Sering, Mr. Jamnyangele Ampek, Mr. Douglas Schofield, and Ms. Kezang Chikidoji for your contribution to this wonderful panel discussion. And in particular, I would like to thank the faculty members and the students of Royal Thimphu College for being such a wonderful audience. Believe me, I've never had any wonderful audience like you all before. Thank you so much. Thank you.